And then I guess I jumped ahead of the press conference too, but how, I see reporters asking that question because the reporter did say that, like, what does your wife think about your face?
But the fact that he kept nagging on that question, he said Lauda gave an answer, was a good defensive answer, a good tactically defensive answer. And then he's like, no, Lauda, you didn't answer the question. Like, do you think your marriage can survive? Like he kind of gnawed on that. That was mean.
Yeah, he kept going. And then he got the living daylights. So, after I read an article where a journalist was complaining about this film, saying that the movie heavily relies on newspaper reports and the news, and the movie relies on journalism. But then a journalist gets a living daylights beat out of him in a bathroom, and
because he was a bad person.
Yeah, and I kind of thought, well, maybe this guy has a point. But then I started looking into Hunt's fistfights, and I'm like, oh, Hunt probably would have kicked his ass. He had no problem about punching people, Hunt. So I don't see why he wouldn't have a problem punching another dude. I'm not saying I'm not condoning it, but it's more believable watching his exploits on the side of the road, knocking people out. Hunt had a temper. I kind of like that. Some guy posted a video on YouTube saying that it was the 15 seconds that made his father famous because he got punched out by Hunt. Man, these guys were young too. These guys were in their 20s. So I guess you can't expect them to be that. So Lauda was really ahead of his time as far as maturity, would you say?
Sure.
And then Hunt. But you know what scene I did like in this film where they're showing Hunt thinking about the track and knowing exactly when to
make the turns, like he was imagining it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was smart. And also, in the beginning of the race, I thought was really smart too, because you don't see this much later, but the beginning of the race really establishes the shifting, the driving, the track. So then you don't really see it again, but you know what it looks like because you saw it in the first 5 minutes. I thought that was another smart budgetary shot, because the more shots you have inside the car, the more money you have to spend because you're shooting more, and that's more time. So I thought that was pretty interesting too, that they focused mostly on that in the first 5 minutes, which, I mean, that's a good thing to teach in film school. If you don't have a budget, get everything out of the way first, explain it all, then you don't have to for the rest of the movie.
Right.
But no, I mean, no, I love this. Like, this is a good way to start our racing pod. And we're doing what? Days of Thunder next? Or Driven?
Driven.
Oh my gosh.
Driven. And you know what? I'm not saying that Rush stole from Driven, but I am saying that Driven came out way earlier, and it also had those scenes where you're imagining and doing your shifting just sitting there on the living room floor.
And doesn't he start humming?
That's what Sylvester Stallone does while he's racing.
Yeah.
You know what? I never saw Lauda pull a hard turn and get a dime stuck in his tire.
Wait, do you think Driven stole from Cool Runnings then? Because there's a scene where they're in a bathtub.
Right, and they're imagining the turns.
Yep.
Dude, Cool Runnings could be the mother of all race car movies.
Wow. It influenced everything.
That was really cute when they did that too in that movie, when they were imagining the turns and they all lean.
Hey, you dead? No, man, not dead. That's one of my favorites, man. I love that picture. No, anything else you want to cover on this movie?
This movie didn't quite give me like the chest tingles of emotional intensity, but it definitely had me emotionally invested since the very first moment, if you will, when he's saying, did he change duets? Like even the first time I saw this, I was all in right away. They set the emotional tone for me, and then they held fast. And I'll also say, I mean, whatever, it's a Ron Howard movie, but there weren't 60 seconds where I was bored.
No.
I might not have been thrilled. Yeah. I might not have been thrilled during the divorce discussion scene in the restaurant with Olivia Wilde and Chris Hemsworth, but I understood it, and it was telling a story, and it was well done what they did, even though I'm not thrilled with those kinds of scenes. But still, like, there was not a slow minute in this movie, unless you refer to that. And even then, it's a minute. This movie kept me going the whole time with their interpersonal repartee between Lauda and Hunt. And I have a respect for Formula One that I never would have had just because of this movie.
Yeah, I would say that there aren't too many 2-hour movies that go by that fast. This movie moves, and it doesn't feel like that long of a picture.
Right.
It just has it's great breezy. I mean, Daniel Bruhl should have been nominated. Let's get it retroactive, John. Let's start a petition. Nominate.
Do you think if he had a couple more movies under his belt, maybe he would have been? Maybe that was part of it.
Yeah, because remember this movie had a ton of Oscar buzz when it first came out. It was at the Toronto International Film Festival, and people were calling it a Best Picture film. And then it kind of slowly backed away from all that. But man, let's do it, John. Let's go into a time machine. Let's get Bruhl a couple roles earlier, and let's get him nominated. What do you think?
Does that mean that we're gonna steal the Oscar from someone else who won it in 2013?
We'll get him nominated, and we'll take the nomination away from someone that had already been nominated before.
There you go. Okay, we're gonna have a fictitious James Hunt, a fictionalized James Hunt, go beat the crap out of somebody.
So instead of 3-time nominee someone, it's 2-time nominee, but they're still nominated twice. We're not.
Yes.
And he's not winning. He's just nominated.
Right.
So now we can have Oscar nominee Daniel Bruhl.
Done. I mean, to say that he was clearly deserving is like an understatement. Like, yeah, that was a wowing role.
How long would it take you to build a time machine, John?
Well, I mean, technically none, right? Because right after I build it, I'm probably just going back a little bit. I can take as long as I want.
Oh, wow. Because then you could just go back.
Oh, wait, but I'm older no matter what, though. So maybe it does matter. So, okay. So if I dedicate all my life to it, it took Doc quite a while, and Back to the Future. I mean, in a fantasy land, a decade, maybe longer.
What about the guys in Primer? They built that pretty quick.
That was kind of by accident, too. Didn't they kind of like stumble across that? Like they were trying to make this, and then they made that, and then it did this.
Yeah, weren't they trying to make like a new type of cereal? And somehow they get
like a low-calorie cornflake.
Yeah, and somehow they got blasted back into the past. And then they started playing the stock market and killing each other.
Besides, I mean, time machines are dangerous. Before you know it, like, I become my own father, like Ethan Hawke.
Yeah. Predestination. We get stuck back in the day with Guy Pearce.
Right.
Time machine brother. No, this was fun, man. Thank you for joining me, dude. This is great. I'm glad we did this. And I'm looking forward to your time machine. So get it done.
All right. Well, you'll get an update when we do lap 2 for Driven.
All right. Sounds good. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for John Levengood, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.